Just breathe. Now, reach out. What do you see?
Light. Darkness. A balance.
It's so much bigger. I only know one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end.
First thing I want to look into is originality. So here are my notes on the originality. I thought there was a lot of fresh new ideas that were brought to this movie that have never been done in the entire franchise. For instance, I like the fact that we have now discovered that you can use ships, force them to go light speed to go directly through other ships. My only question is, why didn't we do this from the get-go? Why didn't the Resistance, why didn't the Republic discover how to do this with every single Death Star on the planet? We could have gotten rid of a lot of Death Stars in the past. I also like the creatures. I felt that the little penguin thingies on the planet with Luke Skywalker, they were pretty cute, and I can definitely see how they had a place. I also like the crystal dogs. Those were pretty interesting to look at. The animals that were used in the casino, they were interesting. I'll give it that much. I did have to take away 1 point because at first I thought the communication between the Jedis using the Force and the Sith, that was pretty cool. However, it was also used in Star Wars Episode 2, The Empire Strikes Back, or Episode 5, depending on how you look at it. In The Empire Strikes Back, there was a communication between Luke Skywalker and Leia Skywalker just after Luke got his hand cut off. So it's not exactly new. However, I did like the fact that they did enhance it. So, and for that one, I gave it a score of 6 out of 10. Again, there was a lot of stuff that were not so original, such as you got a bad guy who wants to become better and stronger, and several things that I think they were trying to say, look, we're bringing something new, but of course, no, not necessarily, because we already did that in the past. One big thing that I really did like, though, was they brought a lot of great and fresh humor, right? Because I like to compare this to The Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back, to me, was the best Star Wars movie out of all of them. And in Empire Strikes Back, it had a brand new sense of humor, especially with Yoda. Yoda and Han Solo just stole the show with their humor. And in this one, there's a fresh new humor, especially with Luke Skywalker. A lot of his scenes were fantastically written, especially the dialogue. And I thought that was really fresh and nice. So I gave it a 6 out of 10. Next, let's take a look at the script. Now, this one I had issues with for many different reasons. The intro scene, I thought was brilliant. I thought within the first 10 minutes of the show, we got to know Poe Dameron and got to be reintroduced to his character and got reminded of the type of person that he was. We got reintroduced to Leia Skywalker. We got reintroduced to her position and her character. We got introduced to the situation, Poe, General Hux in a nice way. We got introduced to Lord Snoke in a nice way. There was a lot of humor, a lot of action, and within 10 minutes, we got set up to the type of flavor and the personality this movie was going to have. I thought that was really, really well done. The milking scene with Luke Skywalker, I don't really think we need to have that, and I really don't need to see that, and now I'm just going to have that in my mind for the rest of my life, and especially when Luke is drinking the milk afterwards. That was pretty weird. I felt that the Force lesson was pretty good. My only issue is that, and I'm going to repeat the same words that Ben Shapiro once said, which is that Luke has got to be the worst teacher in all the Jedis, because he promised to give Rey 3 lessons. Instead, he only gave 2. And the second lesson was kind of blurred. We're not really sure exactly what the second lesson was. But the first one, just introducing the lesson, oh my goodness, I thought that was amazing. I especially just love the part where you've got Rey being introduced to how to deal with the Force for the first time. So I thought that was really brilliant and really well done. Now the free the animals part. Now we're going to have some serious debate about this. So there is a scene in the movie where they release the animals from slavery for the sake of entertainment and for the sake of abusing us. So the purpose of this is free the animals, they're not ours to command. Never in Star Wars history have we ever had a complaint about animals being used as slavery. Never. This is just a brand new thing. If you guys remember in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, or Episode 5, whichever you want to call it, in Attack of the Clones, Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan Kenobi face off against a tiger, a ginormous praying mantis, and some sort of dinosaur, rhinosaur type animal, and no one complained. No one complained once. So guess what? We are using animals, and they've always used animals as slavery. It has never been a part of the Star Wars franchise. Why isn't it an issue now? Why do we feel that we need to make this point about freeing the animals? The other point I didn't like about that scene is about Rose's character. Now I'm going to talk about Rose later. Rose never had an issue about animal cruelty until she came to that city. We never got introduced to that in the beginning. So the fact that she comes to the city and the first thing she says is, oh yeah, I remember being here. Oh, I wish we could just free the animals and whatnot because they get so abused and stuff like that. Why is this an issue now? It has nothing to do with her character. It has nothing to do with the overall mission. It has nothing to do with the movie. It has nothing to do with the franchise. That part felt really out of place. It was really easy for Finn to kick Captain Phasma's butt because, I mean, think about it. This guy was a janitor. He has never had any formal training. And you've got Captain Phasma, who obviously went through the ranks, obviously had the best of the training ever, and can obviously kick some serious butt. Why is it that Finn can do it so easily? It just doesn't really make sense to me. But then again, same with Rey. Rey was able to kick Kylo Ren's butt just for having the Force. Again, so the underline here, guys, is that you don't need training in order to kick someone else's butt. So if you were in the Star Wars franchise and you were a white belt and you came across a black belt, that black belt run, you're going to kick his rear end. I also felt that the character of Rose was absolutely pointless. As a matter of fact, a majority of Finn's scenes were absolutely pointless. And think about it. They get the codebreaker, they get onto the ship, they try to break into the room, but then they get captured, and of course the codebreaker, flips, sides with the bad guys and not the good guys. So what was the point of the journey? Because they didn't do anything. What ended up happening is the transport ship turned around and went light speed back into Snoke's ship. So you literally could have cut Rose out of the picture. It had nothing to do with the story. Finn could have still remained unconscious in his little wet suit, whatever, and it wouldn't have had any impact on the story. Poe Dameron would have done his own thing. He would have been captured or tasered, thrown onto a transport. Everyone would have evacuated. Snoke's ship would have been blown up to bits, and everyone would have been happy and sound on the next planet. Finally, I want to get to Yoda. Now, personally, I found it absolutely amazing that we get to see Yoda one final time. We don't get to see the ugly version of Yoda that we're used to from the prequels by George Lucas. I am sorry, but that Yoda from the original Phantom Menace was just absolutely horrible. I like the CGI improvement in the second and the third one. However, I did like this one because if you notice, we get a little bit more of a mock-up of the puppetry from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but I think they animated the mouth, so it gave a little bit more life, but we still got that original Yoda that we all loved and adored back from Empire Strikes Back. However, it felt really random because Yoda didn't come until the end. What I had wished is as soon as we got introduced to Luke Skywalker and Luke went on his own, Yoda was always there. It's almost like they've had direct communication from the get-go, and Luke has never ever been alone because he's always been in direct contact with Yoda. And I just wish Yoda was all the way there in the end. And then, I don't know, maybe it would have been nice if we had one of those Return of the Jedi moments where you had kind of Rey and Princess Leia looking up, and you had Luke, who is now with the Force, Anakin Skywalker with the Force, Obi-Wan Kenobi with the Force, and Yoda now with the Force, and everyone else with the Force. So anyways, I gave the script category a 5 out of 10. Again, there was some great stuff in the movie. Like, I love a lot of the dialogue. The dialogue was so well written. I loved a lot of the scenes, like the intro scene. I love a lot of the lightsaber interactions. I liked Luke's first original lesson with the Force. There's a lot of great stuff in there, a lot of nice arcs and a lot of nice character development, especially with Rey, and I gave it about a 5 out of 10, so it kind of balanced itself out. Next is the director's vision. Now, overall, I quite liked the vision, I quite liked the movie. It had a nice kind of refreshing cinematic feel to it. It was a step above The Force Awakens, at the same time, it had that original Star Wars quality to it. It had to be a pure Star Wars movie. You cannot kind of change stuff out and replace it with, let's say, World War II settings or Civil War settings or something else from history. It had to be a Star Wars thing. So I really liked a lot of the visionary with it. I liked the fact that we had the Rey and Kylo conflict. Rey should have sided on to the dark side. That's just me. However, when we saw the character of Snoke, we finally get to see him in person, no longer as a hologram. He looks pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. I was really hoping for someone quite scary. And actually, I was just thinking about this earlier today. If you notice, pretty much almost any Darth evil character that we've ever seen in all the Star Wars movies that have fully shown their face have not been quite scary as the ones who have either slightly covered their face or covered their face entirely. We've got Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, Boba Fett, Jango Fett, who had a mask on, and they were quite scary. You know, people even like the Emperor, who even slightly covered his face, was quite scary. But before, when his face was fully shown, not quite scary. So I think a word to go forward, anytime you have an evil character, you should have a mask on. Even Kylo. Kylo looks a little more pathetic when he has his mask off versus having the mask on. That's just me personally. I found it very epic. The action scenes were fun. I only had 2 issues, and they were Snoke and then some of the earlier Luke scenes. As I mentioned earlier, I did like the Fourth Lesson, but a lot of his scenes I didn't fully like. They were too quick, too vague. They didn't give enough detail and depth, so that was a bit of a shame. So I gave the director's vision a total of 8 out of 10 for that one. The next few will be really quick. Cinematography, I love the cinematography. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I loved it. It was excellent. Great dynamic shots. Very, very contemporary. A nice, great little added bonus to the Star Wars franchise. Sound, love the sound. And it's very important when we talk about sound, guys. It's not just about what it looks like, what we shot, what everything looks like. We also need to pay attention to what we hear. Okay, there was some good creativity here, especially with the creatures, like the crystal creatures, the horses, even the little penguin thingies. Those noises were quite cute. The different noises that you get from the different aliens, the different species, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Even some of the ship noises, it really gave you a sense of atmosphere and a sense of really what's going on. You felt the weight, especially. I love the part where the main Snoke ship is firing against the transport, and as it's hitting the shield, you feel that weight. You feel how big those bombs could have been. Production design, I gave it a full 10 out of 10 once again. I love the design. Funny, the production designers seem to have a very serious addiction to red. The color palette, if you didn't understand what color palette is, the color palette for this movie is pretty much white, black, and red. There's a whole lot of red, which I'm fine with. The red looks really, really, really nice. I especially love the hair change for Rey. If you guys notice, so Rey always had like the 2 or 3 weird buns in the background on the back of her hair, which kind of looks slightly weird. But then she jumps into water, and all that kind of falls down, and it just becomes straight in the back with like a little ponytail. I loved it. Now, here's something to keep in note, guys, about production design, about your character's costumes and hairdo. Remember, your character is going through a change. If their character is going through a change, their outer appearance should go through a change as well. That's why I like the hairstyle. Rey's character has matured and become stronger with the Force, becomes better and wiser, and we're seeing a whole different levels. Like, Rey just went from a level 1 to a level 3. If you want another great example of this, I can think about the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, not number 4 and number 5, but think about Curse of the Black Pearl, how the original costumes were kind of more historical. Then the second movie was a pass between historical and then slightly different. We're on the seas, it's a little more action-packed. Then we get to the third movie, and then crap hits the fan. We're all dead serious. The clothing is darker, the hair change is messier and darker, and it really sets a whole new tone for the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So that's just a great example of what good production design can do. Again, I love the red, and I love the designs for the planets and the ships. They were just gorgeous. Acting. So I'm not going to go through all the characters. Rey was great. I do really think that Daisy really did a good job on Rey. Snoke was a joke. His maneuver was quite funny, actually. I did not feel scary. I did not feel intimidated at all. I didn't feel the weight. I didn't feel the performance, which is quite sad because when I think about Andy Serkis, who played Snoke, I mean, we know Andy Serkis from Gollum and Caesar from War of the Planet of the Apes movies. His acting is just amazing. I know Andy's a good actor. Snoke was, I don't know, it wasn't up to par in my opinion. Maybe too much CGI. That definitely had a huge part of it. CGI acting is just, it's never really up to par. I'm sorry, but it's just never really that great. And then Mark Hamill was kind of a 50-50. We're so used to seeing Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker that I think there are some scenes where we kind of disregard and it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely Luke Skywalker. I'm watching Mark Hamill and I'm watching his eyes, I'm watching his acting. Is he being Luke Skywalker or is he being Mark Hamill? I felt that half the scenes he was being Mark Hamill, half the scenes was more Luke Skywalker, and I needed to see more Luke Skywalker. So his acting was a bit of a 50-50. Overall, I gave the acting an 8 out of 10. Next is the editing. It's really important to take a close look at the editing, guys. And here's my basic breakdown of the editing. Several of the scenes, especially the Luke Skywalker scenes, were too quick. I felt we needed to hang on to some of those scenes longer. I felt that some of the dialogue and the beats in between needed to be a little bit longer. Everything just went really quickly from one to another. I'm going to talk about my experience later on, about my whole overall thoughts about the movie. But I really felt the movie did this. So we had the intro, which went up, and then we had the Luke Skywalker, which went down. Then we had the fight between the transport and the main ship, and that went up, and then it went down again because we got to get the codebreaker. And then it was the final face-off with the transport, then it went down, you know, because now they're chasing them back to the planet, and also that's where the ship got destroyed, and everyone else was chasing them to the planet. Then we had the planet's face-off. By the time we got to the planet's face-off, we were just tired. And seriously, the movie was over 2 hours long. By the time we got to the planet, I swear I thought we were sitting in a movie that was 3 hours long. It felt really long. It felt like by the time Snoke's ship got destroyed, that's when the movie should have cut. To me, that was a good exit. I personally think Rey should have gone to the dark side because I think it would have made a bigger comeback later on, because characters need a comeback, and Rey going to the dark side and then coming back into the light would have been amazing. But she doesn't, and that's fine. That's just my opinion. But I seriously do think that everything should have cut the moment Snoke died. Like, as soon as Snoke died and the whole ship got destroyed and everything, just cut. Everything should have just moved over to Chapter 9. Those are just a couple of my editing notes, so I did give it about a 5 out of 10. Because, again, as much as there were some great scenes that moved along really nicely, there were some scenes in there that I felt should not have been in there from the get-go, and there are other scenes that I just felt like just went really quickly. Next, I want to talk about my overall experience. So, you're going to hate what I'm going to say next, but this is up to debate, and I would really like to know your opinions on this. Please let me know in the comments. So, we're sitting in the theater with myself and my brother. We're watching the introduction, you know, in a galaxy far away, and the Star Wars logo, and then the scroll credits. Personally, I think we need an upgrade. And before you get all yelly and start complaining, let me explain myself. Personally, I've seen this intro several times. I personally am getting quite sick of the same intro again. It's great in the first 3 movies. If you want to suck it up with the prequels, that's fine. I personally think that if you're going to bring back a franchise and reboot it and bring a whole new fresh flavor to everything, I think the intro could use a slight bit of change. Here's what I mean. So the music, you've got the great Star Wars music. Can it be made a little more epic and a little more cinematic? I think it could. Could you do something a little more spectacular cinematic-wise with the Star Wars logo when it just starts from the top and then starts to pull itself in the back? I think you definitely could. I think there's definitely some things that you can do. And trust me, this isn't the first time someone else has done this. I like to point out the Star Trek franchise. Okay, it usually had the same little beginning where you may have the Star Trek logo, the title, some people in the background saying space, a new frontier, etc., plus the typical theme song. Then when J.J. Abrams and the team brought it back again with Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, they had a brand new theme, they had a brand new logo, and they had a brand new introduction. And that way it just gave a fresh new feeling towards the new franchise. And they did that with Star Trek 1, Star Trek 2, and Star Trek 3. So, personally, I think we need to get a bit of an upgrade. Or same with the Harry Potter theme. If you take a look at the Harry Potter, yes, we have the same logo, same clouds, and the same Harry Potter theme. By the time we get to the Deathly Hallows movies. It's darker, there's more thunder in the clouds, and there's a little more cinematic and a little more darker of a theme for the Harry Potter music. So personally, I think we're due for an upgrade for the Star Wars introduction. And then overall, again, I mentioned through the editing that I definitely think there was too much ups and down. I think after Snoke's ship got destroyed, I think that's when the movie should have ended. Everything else got moved to Chapter 9. Because of that, the movie felt really, really long. Like, it did feel like we were in there for 3 hours as opposed to 2. So, and that's a very interesting point to point out to you guys, because you got to make sure with your movies that it's feeling very, very quick. You want your audience to feel excited, but you also, more importantly, need the audience to know where the start is, where the middle is, and where the end is. Don't have them guessing. Don't make them feel like, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here for like 3 hours long. That's how long the movie feels. Because trust me, you can make a short movie feel longer and a long movie feel short. So it's quite important to keep in mind about your audience's attention. Is your movie feeling longer than what it actually is? Finally, I want to talk about the music. Now, I don't really have too many points about this, other than it was a bit disappointing. So again, the composer was John Williams, the same composer who did the original 3 movies, the original 3 prequels, and these 3 movies, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and then the next one. Here's my problem. John Williams is my second favorite film composer of all time. He comes up with great themes and great moments, even themes that represent conflict and battles and relationships. This one, there was only 2 themes. The Luke Skywalker theme and the Star Wars theme. Those are the only 2 themes. There was nothing new. Even when we went to the casino, I was hoping for a new change. It was just general kind of background music. We didn't even need the music for the most part. The action scenes, the music was quite nice, but my expectations were a little bit higher, so I was hoping for a little more theme, a little more character, a little more persona. Oh, and there is a little bit of the Leia Skywalker theme near the end. I wish we got more of it, even more of it, even in a military sense, but there wasn't that much that was brought to the table, unfortunately. So I did give the music a 5 out of 10. Overall, this is what I took away from the movie. It was fun. It was exciting. There was a few issues that I had with it. Overall, it did feel really, really long, and my biggest comment that I want to take away with this is that if the editors, the producers, and the directors cut out the crap scenes, like with Rose, Majority with Finn, and a lot of other crap in there, like the alien milking scene as an example, extended the other scenes, put in the extra footage, stretched out those moments so that there was a little more depth and a little more time to take stuff in, cut out that final battle on the planet and moved into Chapter 3, maybe add a few more scenes there, you would have had an amazing second movie and an amazing third movie. You would have had an amazing Last Jedi movie. And especially when you have the planet scene, what I liked about my idea about moving that planet scene to last is that even when you have Luke Skywalker die, think about it. Force Awakens, Han Solo dies. In movie 2, Leia Organa pretty much dies. I mean, Carrie Fisher has passed away, you know, may she rest in peace. And in the third movie, then you've got Luke Skywalker who passes away, which I think is kind of the center core, because Force Awakens, they were searching for Luke. Second one, they train with Luke. Third one, he gets involved and he saves the day. So, to me, I think that just wouldn't make the whole movie better. Anyways, so to tally up the score comes to 75% out of 100, which is an automatic thumbs down. But again, this is just my opinion. I'd love to know your opinion, guys. Please let me know in the comments what you felt about the movie. Is there something we can talk about more in the comments? Again, the whole purpose about these movie reviews, the whole purpose about going to watch a movie in the first place as filmmakers is to get inspired. Any way to improve our craft and improve our movies. So, that's just my thought. I hope to do more and more of these reviews in the future. Please let me know what you liked, what you disliked, anything you agree or disagree, and let's just work on making our movies better. So in the meantime, take care everyone. See you in the new year.